upon it. Apart from these interesting ideas, there are a lot of different factors that influence our decision making when we are in a social settings. For example, how we have the tendency to make illusory correlations, or we make illusory associative matching. The idea is the same behind both. It is when people start associating or matching different things to each other, though the connection is not really there. So you make false correlations between these ideas. This theory talks about how we make illusory mental representations about ideas that are not belonging together. We just have this feeling they ought to belong together. This illusory associative matching idea relies on heuristics, so personal biases. It relies on the representativeness of the information you call when you think of something. So it might not be the best thing, but it's the first thing that comes to your mind. Hence heuristics, hence falsary illusions, hence illusory correlation. Another way to think about this idea is the paired distinctiveness idea. So we make illusory correlation between things that share an unusual feature. Though they are very different, but one thing about them is the same, hence we link them. And hence you make illusory correlations behind ideas, people, situation, etc. Another bias we face is the correspondence bias. So we have this idea that certain things happen because there are underlying personal attributes behind them. So we attribute certain things to people and personalities and stereotypes and scripts, and we also believe that they are responsible for that. A similar idea to this is the false consensus effect, when we think our behavior is more typical than any other people we know. We can expand this idea further to self-serving biases and self-handicapping. So these are ideas when you are projecting your future self to the people around you and you make a manifestation, you project how people should judge you. We can also realize that people have a tendency to have a false idea of control. This means that we have an illusion of control. Not as many things are under our control as we might think. We take a false idea of how much control people or individuals or groups really have on certain things. So this is the idea of false illusion of control. On top of that, when we talk about group, we have to talk about the minimal group paradigm. The concept behind this is that merely the fact that I think somebody is on the same team or in the same category as me, I start behaving differently to that individual. So merely the fact that we think that we belong to a group makes us behave differently to the individuals who we consider our group and the people who consider not to be one of ours. Another thing is the fundamental attribution error. So, when somebody does good in our team, it's because it's one of us. However, once somebody who is from the outside does something good, we consider it mere luck. Also, if somebody does something bad who is from our side, it has to be the circumstances or luck, while someone does something bad from a group that is not ours, we consider it intentional. So we start fundamentally attributing things to people based on where they stand according how we view them as group members. Another important concept we have to talk about when we talk about groups is conformity. So in order to be a member of a group, we conform ourselves to the norms of the pack, group, culture, country, call it whatever it might be. Influences on conformity come from two main ideas. One is normative social influence and the other one is informational social influence. Informative social influence merely states that having information about things from my group members about reality will influence my way of perceiving it. The normative social influence is just simply the fear of the pack members' behavior to our actions. Both of these influencing forces can be implicit or explicit, meaning they can be real or they can be imagined. However, regardless, these things influence our conformity. As we conform to certain norms, we change our behavior as we would do as an individual compared to a group. Other characteristics of group behavior include the general called herd behavior. So this is the submergence, the contagion, and the suggestibility of the crowd. So this idea talks about how certain ideas submerge, responsibility submerge, the whole identity of the individual submerges into the crowd, and there is an element of contagiousy in it, meaning the idea goes from one person to another, so it is contaminous, so it spreads. And it's also suggestibility. There is an element that it is influenced in some way, or that it has a direction. So this idea correlates to the bystander effect. I'm sure you're familiar with this phenomenon when people in cities don't stop by to help certain individuals. And this is the result of submergence. This is the result of the diffusion of responsibility among the people present. Of course, there are several factors that influence the bystander effect, like the people who are present, their previous experiences and personality traits, but let's not get into that. Then we can debate why people do not help, and we can talk about the so-called pro-social behavior. So pro-social behavior would be any sort of behavior performed by an individual that is considered to be helping an other. So pro-social behavior is the biggest category. Then we can also distinguish between helping and altruism. There are again different ways people approach why people do this. For example, there are ideas about the social exchange theory, so that we are expecting some form of recognition or some other value out of doing something for other people. Some concepts start from evolutionary psychology, so regarding to kin recognition and helping our own family. However, there is hope. There are some people who came up with the theory that empathy altruism actually exists. Theory states that empathy is real and it does not need to correlate to social exchange or other kind of benefit you get from others. It's merely just the emotion of helping exists in people. People do good deeds because out of empathy, because they feel for each other. However, some psychologists also emphasize how social learning and perspective and environment and mood and all of the different things affect, as you know, at the beginning we went into the different biases people have when making a decision in a social setting. So these are just some ideas of social psychology based on the individual and how we make differences in our decision making when we join a group. We also need to consider how we approach this, because there is generally a wisdom to the crowd, because the members of the crowd are independent from us and usually they can also be free, or they can have an original point of view. According to social identity theory, too much compliance to conformity results in depersonalization. So the concept that we were talking about at the beginning, that there is a private persona and a social persona. So according to this, if we conform too much, we depersonalize. We just become one of the herd. So yeah, guys, these were just of the fundamental ideas I wanted to cover with you about social psychology. So I hope I made sense to you. I just tried to compile all the theoretical material in a way that made sense to me. This is not necessarily my personal opinion, though I would be more than happy to share with you that as well. I hope you found this informative. I try to focus a lot on theoretical knowledge, so to provide you a comprehensive way of understanding this material. I hope you learned something from it. I'm thinking of making more videos like that, so let me know how you think, what you liked, or if you want to have more information about certain topics, I'm more than happy to share with you. And thanks for watching and have a good one. Bye!